Hello again, and it's time for another Game Source podcast. It's Gerald, better known as Yes Elvis Lives, and I have my good friend with me, my compadre in crime, none other than the man himself, Degenerate '08, Jamie. What's going on, my friend?
Not much. How is everybody tonight? It's been a long time.
Yes, it has. Way too long. Well, I think it's for us. It's the best time of the year. It is still the preeminent show in all of gaming. I don't want to hear Gamescom. I don't want to hear PAX or anything else. The industry always centers itself around E3, and over the past 36 hours, we've had a number of things come up, including all the major conferences from all the major players here at E3. So I'm very happy to talk about this evening. I've got my good friend, like I said, Jamie with me, and I'm telling you right now, I am so excited. It wasn't exactly the barn burner like it was last year when you and I could have gone on for hours on end and picked apart. But it was still, like I said, it was still a very, very good E3, and I'm just excited for the guys that are down there. And by the way, just oh, well, that was me. I'm telling you, I'm so good. I like to hear myself in 3D. But it was just so exciting to see all the different press conferences. Whether you think they were good, whether you think they were bad. But we also have our guys down there, Chris, Corey, and Nick, who got first-hand experience in watching the press conferences. So I know that they're going to be doing some podcasts here, recording from LA, and I'll be able to post that hopefully very soon. I will also be posting a column in my blog of infamy at yourgamesource.com/yeselvislives. .html. I'll be hopefully giving you my full E3 impressions even after this podcast is done today. But Jamie, what you got going on, my friend? I know you did a Twitch earlier today, and that's part of one of the things we'll talk about when we hit Sony. So I really appreciate you doing that stream. And if you missed it and didn't get a chance to catch it, it's on our Twitch channel, game_source. So it's great to have you aboard, Jamie. And I think I'll start off. What do you want to start off with? You tell me where you want to go. Do you want to go in chronological order as it happened, or do you want to go, off the beaten path, so to speak?
Well, it's us. So when do we ever go anything on the beaten path?
Well, that's true, but at least we don't, diddle daddle and talk about something else besides video gaming for the first half hour to 45 minutes of our show, which always irritates me. But to no end.
This is true. And there's so many out there.
Yes. But tell me, what do you want to hit first? I will let you take a stab at where we're going to go, and we'll just hit it from there.
Take a stab. You know what? Why don't we start at the bottom and work our way up, if you feel where I'm going with that one.
Feel where you're going with that one. Well, if you can see us right now, it looks like we're right in the middle of the Xbox conference, as it were. In fact, we're on the big screen and the whole audience is watching us. How cool is that?
The world should be watching.
There you go. But you tell me first, your first impressions on where we'll go, and you said the Xbox conference, correct?
Yeah, let's start there.
Okay, because since we're actually on the screen right there, we're right in the middle of all the action anyways. The Xbox conference. We'll start off by saying, first, I really, really appreciate Mr. Ballmer coming out there, and I mean Phil Spencer. Ballmer's another subject. Phil Spencer coming out there and giving everybody the lowdown on where they want to go, and a re-emphasizing and a restructuring on how Xbox wants to proceed. And how they want the Xbox One to be perceived as far as being a center for all gaming. Kind of like us. But It really started off with the obligatory Call of Duty video, Advanced Warfare, which seems to be garnering a little bit more interest this year primarily because of Kevin Spacey, and the fact that they're throwing a little bit, some tweaks and a little bit of here and there that's a little bit different from the norm, at least for them and for players of those games. Tell me first your thoughts on the new Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, which Xbox said that they would be getting premium content and DLC content first on their system.
Well, first off, let me go by saying, gee, we didn't see that coming.
Yeah, well, at least there wasn't a dog this time that they would feature or what have you. So
This is true, you know. If I want to play with dogs, I've got my 3DS for that.
yes,
But I think the new Call of Duty is going to be really good. I mean, it's Call of Duty. Do we have to say anything? I mean, all they do is slap Call of Duty on it. Boom, it's good. To so many people, is it something that I was holding my breath on? No. I mean, it was one of those things that we already knew going into it. We were just hoping to see a little bit more, which is what we got to see. And I think it's going to be solid, but, you know, it's not the make all, break all.
no, but I still think it's still the kingpin. It's still at the top of the heap as far as it's concerned. The only thing that's been coming close to it in the past couple years has been GTA. Otherwise, it's been a dominant for the past 5-7 years, and nothing but Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty. So I still see their fortunes, pretty strong. Do I see it actually being better? I actually see the series on a little bit of an upturn because I like the direction that it's going with Advanced Warfare, and obviously getting a premium talent like Mr. Spacey involved really does help the series. I think it gives them a little boost or an influx of life, as it were, and I really think for Call of Duty that it sends Call of Duty players, it sends a good message to them as far as that they do care about the series and where it's going. So
Yeah, I have to agree. It's not. It's actually going out there and saying we're not just giving you the same thing over and over and making it something else. Where they're actually making something of it, and I think it's a great direction that they're going with it.
I do, and I do as well. Indeed, I thought, like I said, it was pretty good for what it was. Take it with a grain of salt. I also want to touch on Forza Horizon 2. Um, Obviously, the first game was a surprising hit as far as it's concerned. The second one seems to be a much funner experience than its Forza Motorsport 5 counterpart, because that's more of a sim, and I really think that a lot of fans might endear themselves to this game a little bit more than Forza Motorsport 5, even though it sold around 1 million copies. It's done a little more than that. It's done, fairly well, but I noticed it got a lot of feedback because of the microtransactions involved and a lot of bad press stemming from that they had to go ahead and revamp that pricing system, as it were. I'm hoping the Forza Horizon 2 will be a much better example of Turn 10, showing that you can create an enjoyable driving game and not have to go to great lengths to try and garner more funds from the consumers. Is there any particular game from the Xbox conference that stuck out to you?
That stuck out. Well, I can tell you that they took cues from a lot of their launch titles for some of the titles that are coming up.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, if you look at the new Fable game,
Fable Legends, yes.
That has Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare written all over it.
It looked okay. I noticed some of the detail as when you put it back to back with Dragon Age Inquisition. Clearly, hands down, Dragon Age Inquisition looked far better product. But the advantage of Fable Legends was that you could do all four in co-op, whereas in Dragon Age Inquisition, there just 4 players that one person controls, which to me is not as an enjoyable concept gameplay wise. Which I know today from your discussions that you and I had earlier, gameplay obviously still as a central theme, and I understand the reality of certain games not looking as well as others, but I think when you put some back to back with competitors in that same genre ilk, as it were, you have to sometimes go by what aesthetically pleases you. If you see something similar as far as gameplay is concerned from both those games, so.
Of course, of course. I mean, the biggest thing that stuck out to me that made me even lean towards it being anything near a Plants vs. Zombies was the fact that, you had control of the villain from above. And with Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare, they had the boss mode where you were basically doing the same thing.
Yeah. No, and I do like the fact that Xbox did take a time out to promote their ID at Xbox with their indie titles, and they did a montage of all the great indie titles that are coming their way. So that was kind of nice. PlayStation did a little bit differently, but it was kind of nice to see them at least sharing some love for the indie titles. One thing I did want to mention before we move on maybe to something else, that Halo 5 really wasn't accentuated too much in the conference. It was mentioned briefly, but I just don't think it was really should have been driven home because of being one of the cornerstones of what their future looks like. Since they did mention Gears, which has just started production, I really think that they should have made a better emphasis on Halo 5 as far as it's concerned, in my opinion. I understand it's coming out in 2015 and they wanted to focus on the here and now, but I know a lot of fans that are interested in the Xbox One are targeting that title, and I'm sure they want their fill of what the game is, how the game is progressing. What they did show us in this place was the Master Chief Collection, with a special emphasis and redetailing of the Halo 2 Anniversary Edition, because it's 10 years for that game. But all four games, Halo 1, 2, 3, and 4, all those main core Master Chief editions will be packaged in a bundle, which for me is very attractive because Halo 2 was a particular interest to me as far as from a multiplayer standpoint. So, how did you feel that Halo was treated during the Xbox conference as a whole?
I feel, after being there myself last year, seeing just the small tease that there was, and then, I'm going into this year thinking, man, they're really going to drive this. They're really going to push this. They're going to give it the emphasis that it deserved. And yeah, with the Halo 5, it dropped it a little. It didn't really push it as much as I thought they were. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. Now, with the anniversary and the Master Chief editions, that was enough for me. If they would have said it was out right now, I'd have been down buying it right then and there.
Good. I'm glad to hear your thoughts on that. One more thing, before we touch on one of the other press conferences, I really think overall Xbox did a good job, and they did exactly what they want to do: games, and they emphasized nothing but games, and their transitions were great. I think they did a better job in Sony in that retrospect. I think even though Sony actually, believe, showed more games than Xbox, their flows seem to be much better than what Sony was. But unlike last year, there was no big gaffes. There was no big, wins by anyone for any stretch of the imagination. So I think a lot of, and you'll see this theme if you get a chance to take a look at all the different conferences, or if you have, I'm sure you saw this theme, everyone out there, throughout, that I think everybody just wanted to play it safe and not do what Xbox did last year with all the public relations gaffes. And I think they really just had a good, solid press conference. And I really think that they showed consumers why the Xbox One is a very good gaming system, and I think it's got a very good future ahead of itself. Jamie?
Yeah, they did very well. Last year it was too much there's way too much emphasis on the entertainment aspect. This is what we're doing with this studio. We're going to have this TV show, and you can do this with your TV and that with your TV. And that's not what everybody wanted. A new system was being ready to be launched.
Hmm.
They wanted to know what they were going to be able to play. And that
That
really wasn't pushed.
exactly.
Now this year they did that, and I agree with you. Everybody across the board was playing it safe, which was a good thing. Because you don't want to go for that Hail Mary bomb and have it blow up in your face,
Yeah.
which is kind of what was happening last year. So, I mean, honestly, they have laid down some very good groundwork to get themselves, here in the next year, 2 years, just a solid little run.
A
So
solid little
I'm
run.
anxious to see where it's going to go.
As am I. As am I. So the next one is people just seem to either really enjoy this conference or really just stink on it. The EA press conference, and for me, the Electronics Arts press conference, I thought was very well done. I thought, those games that were just really just way into as far as we were a long way off from getting anything finished. We're just going to show the development teams and some art and some very very beginning stages of the actual gameplay, or maybe some capture photos and things of that nature, and image art. I really thought I liked that aspect because they weren't going to try and do a vertical slice, which would make you go ooh and ah, and then the rest of the game would stink. I think people are learning lessons from Aliens: Colonial Marines in that aspect. But I also like the fact that what they did show and then what they were ready to show was very interesting indeed. I like the fact that they're keying in on Mass Effect again, and they're also introducing that same team, that those same studios are introducing a new IP, Mirror's Edge 2. I'm happy personally that the actual game is coming out, but I know it seems to me like it falls a lot into the area of Psychonauts. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie. Is that Psychonauts and Mirror's Edge were both very beloved games by really hardcore fans and also gaming journalists alike, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
No, you are correct.
But the problem is the games themselves did not sell well. Neither of them sold well. And there was quite a bit of debate for a long time that if a Mirror's Edge 2 or Mirror's Edge reboot would actually ever be made based off those sales. So I think it's just because that DICE loves that game so much. I think that's the only reason why they made it, because they had to deal with Battlefield and before that Medal of Honor, and they're dealing with Star Wars Battlefront. And I think because of that, EA has said you can go ahead and make this game that you love very much, Mirror's Edge, because, like I said, it does not have the sales track history that some others have, and even though it is beloved in a, I don't want to say a cult-like sense, or a novelty-like sense, but it just, if everybody who says they love it actually bought it, then it would not have had these sales issues that it once did. Same thing with Psychonauts, but be that as it may, they showed more Dragon Age. Obviously, the sports games. If you're a big Madden fan, the defense has been re-emphasized. What stuck out in your mind with the EA press conference?
To be totally honest, the one thought I had right off the bat was, thank God it's not a total emphasis on I can control my sports with my Kinect.
Yes,
Because
yes.
that year was just nerve-wracking.
Well, it's they were being, financially compensated, obviously, and very handsomely by Xbox too, and all these companies were that had to shoehorn Connect into the gameplay. They were obviously very handsomely paid for doing so. They didn't want to. Nobody wanted to, and I'm glad that Microsoft has seen the light of day, even though this is something that I had predicted a long time ago that they would do, in getting rid of the Kinect as far as being, a not an option, being a mandatory component. and I'm glad that they're finally seeing the error of their ways and having two SKUs now available with and without the Kinect. And from what reports I'm reading, that the Xbox One was selling without the Kinect is selling very strongly indeed, and that's good to see for the system. But going back on EA, like I said, overall I think it was my favorite of the conferences, only because of the fact that they weren't going to show you anything that they weren't ready with, and what they were ready with, they made very impressive. Um,
I couldn't
anything
agree more. What they were ready with was very, very impressive.
exactly? No beta, alpha, sigma, gamma, pi footage. Early.
Right.
We just started the production last week type deal. But I want to move on to Ubisoft, and Ubisoft. Um, I, I I really think that Far Cry 4 and Rainbow Six Siege, as it were, and no
It's no
longer,
longer Patriots.
which is a shame because I kind of like that title,
I
but
did too.
and they changed the gameplay too, as well as being more of a 5-on-5 actioneer, as it were. I think the Division, the Crew, I think they and the Assassin's Creed, I think they have a lot of great titles. Um, do I think they have a lot on their plate right now, including obviously the exercise games, the dance games that they have, um, and whatnot. They've got a lot on their plate. It looked pretty good what they showed, um, but I'm just concerned that we've seen it all from Ubisoft before, when we thought Assassin's Creed 3 was going to be the bomb and had Game of the Year before we had even left E3, and unfortunately that wasn't the case. It was a strong game, but it was just not as strong as it was. Could have been. I think the same thing. I'm really tentative to really go out on a limb on Far Cry 4 and all those other, even though they're tremendous because of what happened with Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs looked tremendous out of the gate, and unfortunately, when it finally came out, we reviewed it here first. I gave it a 7.5, but that game had so much potential to be a lot more, and I'm hoping future iterations will do that. But the Division looks really solid. The Crew, all these games from Ubisoft really look impressive. But I kind of am just hedging my bets when it comes to Ubisoft being the finished product. Although Far Cry has a history of being good already, so I think Far Cry 4 may have my hopes up real high, and doing the fact that it can now be co-op with another person, that makes it more enjoyable as well. What do you think, Jamie? How do you think Ubisoft performed in your opinion?
I can't argue that either. They did show a lot. I mean, but again, falls back onto what you were saying. How much of it can we fully trust? I put a lot of trust into Watch Dogs.
As
I
did
was one
I.
of the
As did I.
ones going, man, wow. And
And
I'm
it's not
not
the
gonna say it
delay.
didn't let me down.
No,
It wasn't the delay. No,
no.
delays were we got past it. It just, I don't know. To me, it didn't keep up with the hype.
Not
Maybe the
even
hype
close.
was too much for it.
Yes. They were garnering themselves, and they were marketing themselves as something to be on an equal platform with GTA. And unfortunately, they're not at that point yet, and not even close. Even if it was close, I think I probably feel a lot better about it. But I think when it came out, all is said and done, and there are a lot of concepts that are working with Watch Dogs, but unfortunately, it just wasn't all put together. The pieces just did not quite fit the way it could have been, and I think that's why the Ubisoft press conference, for me, I was kind of hesitant to really enjoy it the way I know I can, because of the fact that these games, once they become finished products, may not be as good as I want them to be, or I think they can be, given the right circumstances. Because Ubisoft has got a lot of games on its plate, and I'm just hopeful that they're going to be able to finish all those off with the quality that I'm hoping for.
Right. I mean, obviously, we're going to expect delays on a lot of them. That's par for the course.
That is part of the course, but I just because Ubisoft, they've been known to delay some games now and then, but I just want to make sure that when it does come out after those delays have been made, that they're going to be a game that's really, really, really strong and really worth playing. Because the Crew, the Division, um, those are games. Those are brand new IPs. Yeah, those are games that are going to, and Watch Dogs too. Those are three games that are going to be, become the backbone after Assassin's Creed runs dry, after Far Cry runs dry. Those games are going to be the backbone of what Ubisoft is all about. So my hope is for them for the future on that. So,
Yeah,
um, go ahead. I'm
it's
sorry.
totally understandable. I agree there as well. The Crew, it looked great when we saw it before, and I can only hope it just stays. That they didn't, because we don't know. Did they tweak too much? Did they not tweak enough?
Yeah.
Hopefully we find out, and hopefully we're all just blown away by it. That's what I'm hoping for, anyways.
As am I. As am I. Well, the evening ended up with your friend and mine, Sony. PlayStation presentation. I think it went a little long, but and the when during the middle where they were talking about the number of shares and the numbers of how many times they've had the millions and millions of gaming hours and the millions and millions of players and PlayStation Plus is doing so abundantly well and things like that nature. I think I probably would have cut that fat out right there, and maybe just provided some press releases on that right around the time of the press conference. Obviously, you have to keep in PlayStation TV because you're trying to promote that, which you can no longer call Vita TV, but you're going to call it Vita TV if you really knew it was Vita TV, but now it's PlayStation TV.
Right.
And obviously, they had to show PlayStation Now because they're putting a lot of money and a lot of weight behind that concept. I'm just hoping, the latency as far as it's concerned, if you've got decent Wi-Fi and you've got decent internet, we'll be able to play out what's the pricing, for PlayStation and non-PlayStation Plus owners. I personally, like I said, I think it's a great concept since you're no longer to get free backwards compatibility. It's a nice component to have as long as the titles are worth playing for. So I'm hopeful that it works out. So you got a chance to play PlayStation Now in a beta. What were your impressions of it?
I'm actually still in that beta as we speak, and I can honestly say if it's anything like what I'm getting in the beta, it's going to be well worth it.
It just like I said, to me it's a great option. I know not everybody has the highest of hopes for it, but I really think it's a solid plan, a solid concept, and the fact that you can just go run out. I've got a Sony television that's compatible with it. I can just go run around and get a DualShock 3, and boom, there I go. That's just an awesome feature. It makes the Vita more attractive, which is something in dire need because that was one of the glaring things about the Sony conference was the lack of Vita information, which
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's been kicked to the curb because there's still 100 titles, indie titles that want to go to it, and smaller titles that want to go to it, which makes it still at least a little bit viable. But the lack of important games coming to the Vita was that was mentioned or not mentioned in this case was quite disappointing for Vita owners like me and you. Um, well, tell me some of your impressions as far as it's concerned, without mentioning Uncharted 4. We're going to go on Uncharted 4 later on and gloss over that one later, in a few minutes here. But tell me your impressions about some of the things that you like best outside of, like I said, that little issue, that little hiccup during the middle part of the conference, which I'm sure you were yawning to a little bit for a couple minutes there.
Yeah, just a tad, just a tad.
But
Had
tell
enough
me.
time to
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
had enough time to grab a Coke during that one.
Well, that's not what you want to do. That's not. You got to show something exciting, or interesting. But from what you saw, what were the things and the moments that stuck out with you in the press conference?
I think one of the big moments was, To be totally honest, it was Little Big Planet 3. That we
Uh,
something we all knew was coming. We just didn't know when, didn't know how.
and Media Molecule had been, kind of vague as far as not being there, not being able to present anything, or Little Big Planet 3 not being in there in any fashion. Or what? I know there's another project Media Molecule is probably working on that they're not talking about right now, but them having influence on Little Big Planet 3, it's there, and I'm glad it was shown. And despite the um, somewhat rough playing by some of the developers out during that game, it looked fun. It looked to me like an even more incredible experience, especially with the fact that you can play up to 4 players. What do you think?
Right. They're definitely making it more fun. They're definitely making it more accessible to, again, what me and you were discussing earlier, playing with friends.
They did announce during the press conference that Destiny, which is they're currently having a close knit relationship with them and Activision on that game. They announced later this year a 450 bundle coming with the game and the white PS4.
That's very nice.
Yeah, it looks very nice. Destiny, the game itself, doesn't endear me. It's still, as I said on a previous podcast, and Nick kind of questioned me on it. I still think obviously looks Bungie's the Halo influence is there. It looked like a Halo and Borderlands um, combined, and it really just did not, to me, seem all that enthralling. I could be wrong. Hopefully, we'll be able to play the alpha this weekend to give me a better idea of the gameplay. But it's going to be a big game. It's going to be marketed heavily. It's supposed to be on a 10-year lifespan, quote unquote. It's from a quote way back when, that the game would evolve itself into a 10-year. Sorry, not talking about the game Evolve. The 10-year lifespan of the game. So, tell me your thoughts on Destiny. I mean, has it improved in your eyes? Because I know we talked, way back when we first saw it, that we were
Right.
not totally enamored on it.
I, I'm leaning towards this weekend. I can't tell if there's been enough change. I feel like I'm being spoon fed the same amount of stuff I was fed when it first all started. But I have to agree with you on the fact that it does remind me a lot of Halo, it does remind me a lot of Borderlands, kind of intertwined. But that seems to be a huge thing for games nowadays, unless it's just me that's picking up on that.
No, it's something obviously that's a master plan at Activision. No matter how average the game is or ending up to be, or how okay it is, and not overwhelmingly good at this point in time, or ultimately become, because I'm sure they'll do some tweaks and changes to it. Activision's going to be able to market the hell out of that game, and they're going to be able to get a lot of people invested in that game, whether we think it's warranted or not. And I think that the affiliation with the currently best-selling next-gen console doesn't hurt at all. So, what were your opinions on the Order 1886?
Well, you must have read my mind. I was just thinking about that while you were talking right now, going, wow, I hope we go there next.
Well, we're going there next. What were your thoughts on that game? Because I don't know if I mentioned it on air, but I'm really the game has looked spotty. It's had issues all over the place. It looks great in spots, and at others it just the frame rate stutters. It should be a Gears of War 4-player co-op type deal. It screams it. It basically all in all advertises it, and unfortunately that's not going to be the case, which to me is a misstep. Because if you already delayed the game into 2015, you might as well add that feature in there, because so many other games are adding co-op in, online drop in, drop out co-op as a feature. What were your thoughts on the Order 1886?
It is. You're right. There's times where it looked great. Then there's times where I felt it was taking a big step backwards.
And there's a lot riding on that game, and that's it's supposed to be one of Sony's big titles, and
Isn't that scary?
that's very scary because they're pulling a lot of weight behind it, and I don't think it'll be ready. I think it might even be delayed again one more time. I'm not trying to, beat that out there. I'm not hoping that that's the case, but I just think there's some changes that need to be made, and it needs to just have an overall polish that the game I don't think has at this time.
You were right. It does scream co-op.
Yeah.
I honestly thought that was already there when we saw it in the first place.
Yeah, but no, they said it was no single player only, which you're playing NPCs, which like Dragon Age Inquisition is just really just a head scratcher because it seems like you have three other NPCs on the screen with you at the same time. Why can't it be so much even more awesome of experience if it was with three other friends? So, I do want to compliment Sony on one thing. They chose not to just put a single area of like Xbox did for their indie games. They chose to blend in, even though it wasn't always the most cohesive thing. I'm going to give Sony credit for blending in the big games with the little games all in one fell swoop and not identifying like the game that you played and the game that you streamed today. And if you want to go check it out on our Twitch channel, game_source Twitch channel, go for it. Or also it's on our YouTube, and also I posted it on our GameSource Facebook page, and that is Entwined, which obviously endeared itself to you right away because you went out and got it because it was available, and my compliments to Sony, it was available that day. So
exactly, and I honestly got it right after he said it's available now.
What were your thoughts on it? You've played it.
I loved it. I'm going to be throwing more thoughts into a written review, but
oh, that's awesome.
I loved what I played of it so far, and honestly, it warrants the $10 that they want for it.
It's just $10. It
That's it.
You can't beat that.
I was to not throw a bad pun, but Entwine had me enthralled.
Oh, that's good. I'm really really pleased to hear that because it looked like a really cool title. And the fact again it wasn't mentioned as an indie title, and it was just mentioned as just a regular game to go alongside was to me quite complimentary to all those teams that were previewing at Sony. So I think maybe Xbox might get a little bit heads up on that, so going forward that they won't label something as just an indie, because some people still have, even to this day, I think I wrote a column on it sometime back about indie left a bad taste in people's mouth, just because it's indie, they think it's not going to be of any quality, it's going to be just a little jump platformer or whatnot. There is some good stuff out there, like for instance Bromance, which Chris and Corey have streamed here on off Steam early access. That's going to be coming, I believe, to the PlayStation 4 and next gen consoles, and that looks like a lot of fun. That's a small little indie title. So, and there's so many more that we saw that were really impressive from both Xbox One and also PlayStation 4 side. But I really think there's a lot of good games that Sony showed as well. If they'd only made it more cohesive, that probably would have helped them prove out a little bit better in the conference. And but it did close on a really high note with Batman: Arkham Knight and Uncharted 4. And I'll get your thoughts first on Batman: Arkham Knight before we go into the hopes and dreams for many PlayStation 4 fans out there with U4. Go ahead.
Well, hey, they delayed it. Probably going to be worth it in the long run. I think that's something that in my opinion, when I first saw it, said to myself, this is being rushed. We just got out of a Batman game and we're getting this already.
Well, that was a different studio making that game.
Correct, but I mean, I don't know. It seemed like a little too much too fast.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm loving it. we've got Scarecrow, Talk of the Joker. Hello.
And then also as well the using the Batmobile battle mode and all that. So,
Yeah, yeah. And that's something that people have been wanting to do for a while.
oh yeah, yeah, I agree. And we'll leave off the Sony conference with probably, like I said, the game that I'm along with the new Mass Effect and the new Halos. Probably the game I'm looking most forward to, and a lot of people in the industry because of all the problems and all the backstage infighting and transition that has gone on over the past 3-4 months. Uncharted 4, and quite simply, whatever you think is going on behind the scenes, whatever you think of the game series itself, whether you love it or dislike it or have no affinity for it or in total malaise over it, you have to admit that Uncharted 4, that teaser, was probably the best looking game on right now at E3. That detail on Nathan Drake's face was simply something quite unseen as far as it's concerned in the annals for video games. I've only seen that type of detail and concepts, and just truly incredible. And the whole area that he was in for that short brief period of time that we saw it, it looked absolutely beautiful and gorgeous, and I cannot wait to get my hands on that game. And just tell me your thoughts on Uncharted 4, which seems to infer, and I hope it's not the case, but seems to infer that this will be the last Uncharted that Nathan Drake will be a part of. What do you think?
It does seem to try and push that fact. I'm hoping that we're wrong.
Well,
Hoping it's
if
just,
we if it is correct and ultimately ends up happening, I think the series will go on quite nicely as long as they maybe may transition Nathan maybe into the movies finally, maybe whatever. But go ahead, go
that
ahead.
would be nice. I agree. I mean, as you said, things that we saw there were things we only saw in concepts before. Like I remember the concept for um, Call of Duty Ghost. They pushed the fact that look, you see bruising, you see cutting. I saw that on Nathan, and to be able to sit here and watch that and go, this is it. This screams next gen.
And it was so funny because last year when they showed the Call of Duty, everybody was talking and laughing about the dog. This
Mm-hmm.
year, all they can talk about is that fly and how good that fly looked. It's a fly, and it looked like you just wanted to go get a fly swatter and just smack it. It looked that
Exactly.
good. So just truly, truly photorealistic. Truly looked like the best game of the show just from that inference. And I cannot wait for, obviously, being the largest Uncharted fan on the planet. That aside, it truly looks like an incredible experience waiting for us at least one more time with Nathan Drake. So, like I said, Sony as a conference in all was a little bit uneven, but they showed a lot of games that they really didn't put themselves behind the eight ball too much. Obviously not to the point where someone would say, "Oh, I'm not buying a PlayStation 4" or anything like that, because all they did was, they showed a ton of games. Actually, I believe more than the Xbox did. And really, there's a bright hope for future for both gamers and fans of the Xbox One and PS4. What do you think?
I agree. As I said when we were talking about Xbox, the roads are laid out for both companies, both systems, and it looks bright. There's definite light at the end of the proverbial tunnel, so I can't wait to get there and see what comes. We've already seen so much in such a
Yes.
short period of time.
And then we have Nintendo. This morning, the Nintendo Direct was shown. It was shorter than the others, uh, but it still had some weight. And first off, before I go into that big sigh like I just did, I'm just teasing. The actual conference itself for me, um, it was okay. It catered and served itself to, in a lot of ways, to Nintendo hardcore. Um, but as I've stated, and behind the scenes with you, and I'm also going to elaborate more in my blog of infamy, hopefully in the next couple days. It didn't endear itself and did nothing to endear itself to a broader audience. And you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, because I know for myself, being a more casual fan as when it comes to Nintendo, I want to really have a reason to get it, the Wii U, and I've never been given a reason. I know Jeremiah Super Pouring said he's never been given a reason for an Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 to get those systems. I conversely have never been given a true reason to get a Wii U. I think none of the games have been that endearing. Mario Kart 8 comes close because it looks really good, and after your review, giving it a 9 out of 10 really plays like it. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Xenoblade Chronicles X, you can't say 2, was definitely a step in the right direction, because that game was such a surprise, and Jeremiah himself truly loved the game. But unfortunately, at its price point, there's really not enough titles, because even though it's been out longer, the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 have a comparable number of titles, if not more, as far as it's concerned. So I just think right now with Nintendo showing some Zelda concept, which many fans were happy and pleased, going from look like he was about ready to fish to getting some at some weird space alien octopus like dude. It looked okay. After seeing all the great stuff that we did last night, you could rattle off about 20 games that looked a lot better and looked like it's a lot more cohesive, because it wasn't, just like those games footages we saw last night in a lot of ways. It was just pre-rendered footage. It may have been off the Wii U, may have not been off the Wii U, but that's something obviously that you weren't going to be representative of actual gameplay, if I'm not mistaken, when you saw that Zelda. What were your impressions as far as it's concerned on that?
First off, my question would have been, we don't even know if that's really Link.
Yeah, absolutely. But it did not look like it was true gameplay in that sense, as it were.
No.
But it looked pretty solid. That's true for the Wii U, because, like I said, it doesn't have the same horsepower in the hood on the PS4 or Xbox One. I was encouraged, though, if you are, and fans everywhere of Nintendo should be encouraged, the Amiibo aspect and how it incorporates itself into Super Smash and hopefully some other games. They announced between 5 and 10, if I'm not mistaken, games that's going to incorporate it. It's their version of the Skylanders and Disney Infinity, where you're actually going to get the figurines that are going to go actually be able to send information and also receive information back to the figurine, so that if each gameplay experience with the figurine will be different, whether you put it on another Wii U or what have you, or 3DS, because it will work with 3DS, which I think is an outstanding maneuver on their part. And my compliments to Nintendo on that. What were your impressions of the Amiibo concept to you?
That was very interesting to me, in the fact that it did say you can give information and it will take information, and I was like, wow, that's definitely interesting. That's different. To touch on that a little, now that you brought that up, I honestly forgot the whole time we're talking about these press conferences to ask you how you felt about Disney Infinity 2.0.
Well, you know me, I was a big fan of Disney Infinity when it comes out. And ultimately, of the three services between Amiibo, Disney Infinity, and also as well Skylanders, I think, even though Skylanders had the head start, I think Disney Infinity in the long run is going to win out, simply because they have the licensing to do it. And the concept, as far as the gameplay, as far as the different games and the sandbox, the toy box, excuse me, as it were, concept seems to be working really well. seems to be still getting very good reviews and so very good feedback from fans. And the fact that there's more licensing for females, for young ladies to play, that they can relate to, because there's not many things that young ladies like my own daughters can relate to when they see Skylanders. It's interesting, some Skylanders toys and whatnot, but they were more keyed in on can they get some Frozen princesses or Disney princesses off the Disney Infinity line, and then with Star Wars and the Marvel set coming to Disney Infinity, I think ultimately that will wield and hold more staying power to the broader audience than the amiibos, even with Mario, Luigi, whatnot, or anything Skylanders can produce out. That's something similar, or do you feel differently?
No, I feel that way as well. I guess we'll have to see where it goes. It's kind of early for Nintendo pushing that. I don't know. Can they bring in more? Can they pull what
And the
Disney
amiibos,
did?
and one thing we're going to say, because the amiibos do more, I'm assuming that they're going to cost more, and that might be an issue with American and European consumers as
That
far as
could
the
be a
cost.
deciding factor,
Yeah,
yes.
because the pieces for Skylanders and Disney Infinity average right around $15, correct?
Mm-hmm.
In that range. If you're talking 20, 25, $30 for an amiibo, I can see people getting a very small amount of them, and then that's it as far as that experience is concerned, which doesn't do Nintendo any favors.
Right.
Um, the amount of IPs that were introduced were minimal, which was kind of a disappointment. I know Star Fox is in development. I've heard rumors that it's even there behind closed doors at E3. I wish that would have been announced in a better format at the Nintendo Direct. Splatoon looks like a game that Nintendo will be somewhat influenced and being heavily relied upon. Um, Unfortunately, that game looks like a downloadable title to me and should stay at. But it's going to be pushed as a full retail game, and that's not to me a warranting these days of a full retail game.
No.
Did that give you that impression, or something a little
It,
bit?
it it did. No, yeah. I honestly thought that should just stay as a downloadable title.
And was it the Prince Toad? Is that correct game? The
I
Toad.
believe so. The Toad? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because that game was a platformer, Super Mario Galaxy or Super Mario World 3D concept, and using the Prince Toad in there, but who does not move in as free and easy flowing fashion as Mario's. It's not going to really endear as many platformers fans as I don't think that they would like. Bayonetta 2 looked okay, but it really obviously it's not going to wow anybody since Bayonetta 2 did not do as well over. Bayonetta 1 did not do as well over here as they would have liked. So I don't think Bayonetta 2 is getting a lot of people's interest up.
Well, that's why they added one with it.
Yes, yes, and I think that was a necessity. The Devil's Third, which was announced, I believe from Itagaki, or am I mistaken?
No, that's correct, I
And
believe.
influenced, believe, by Guillermo del Toro. Um, I think that's a game I would like to see a lot more of. Unfortunately, it's only becoming it's only a Wii U exclusive, um, which does not tell me very much other than the fact that it might be a Wii U exclusive because it could not get pushed onto different formats. So that may
Time will
not
have to tell with that one.
that may not be the best news for that game. Um, I mean, unlike Bayonetta 2, which was from the get go emphasized as a Wii U game, the Devil's Third was mentioned all around at one point in time while it was still being decided if it was going to be ever developed. So to be just made a Wii U exclusive seems like at this point, a kind of a reach for that game. Um, but I don't want to digress too much on Nintendo because I really think Nintendo had a pretty solid overall conference, and even after the conference with the Treehouse concept, with also as well the Super Smash Brothers tournament, that made the Super Smash Brothers presentation a very very solid one, and I really like the fact that they're emphasizing that going forward. But you could just see, that they were during the press conference when they were talking about Super Smash Bros. The 3DS and all the things that they were going to throw into it. You could just hear him hinting and screaming that they were going to delay the game from the summer release schedule. And sure enough, they said that they were going to delay it until October. So
Right.
and because it was just funny because he was hinting it already and during the interview. Um, like I said, what were your thoughts on Nintendo as a whole? I just think they didn't push the envelope, and I think it really is about time that they need to push the envelope with some strong IPs, and also some things that the fans want, like a new Metroid and things of that nature that will really, really, and some things outside the box that they wouldn't normally do, like a maybe gritty third person action drama, or a space shooter or a cover shooter that would be in the realm of something you would find in a PS4 or an Xbox One. I think they really need to go and stretch out their legs in that and take a chance on that in order to win more win more of a casual audience. But how did you think Nintendo did overall in this morning's Nintendo Direct?
They did okay. I mean, they beyond played it safe. They didn't really play any cards at all. They just, kind of said, "Here, this is what we've got," which is something we all knew.
And it's
And
only had 40 minutes. With all due respect, they only had a 40
right,
minutes on their direct.
exactly, exactly.
But
So,
they need
40 minutes, not very long, but at the same time, like you were saying earlier, it focuses on the hardcore Nintendo fans, which isn't a bad thing. That's their fan base. That's what they've got. That there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, personally, I'm not a hardcore Nintendo fan, but is there a Wii U in my house? Yes, there is. Did it sit for a few months until I got Mario Kart 8? Yes, it did.
And that's the problem.
So,
And that's the problem. They cannot just release one or two high-pointed games during the year and just call it a day.
right.
That's not going to get them any garner any more fans to the system. And
No.
the Nintendo fanboys and fangirls and hardcore that they so rely upon for the stability of their company, they're going to have less and less of those going forward because they're going to see all the exciting things that are coming to PS4 and Xbox One and migrate over there. But that's just just my opinion. I'm hoping that's not the case because the Nintendo Wii U and they didn't even announce a price cut. It needs a price cut. It's screaming a price cut. You know, Xbox One, when they did the price cut and they removed the Kinect, they did themselves a favor. Wii U needs to do itself a favor and give fans a choice whether they want the gamepad or not, and just sell it without the gamepad for $199. Just call it a day, or $149 or $179. I think that would be an easy way to get some quick sales and get a lot of interest into the Wii U. But your thoughts on that? Something
That's
something else?
true. I mean, we're beating a dead horse. We're sounding like broken records. We've been saying that for how many years now?
Well, it just appears that way to me that the Wii U, it has this device that doesn't get utilized enough, that doesn't get promoted enough. Its window of opportunity for being the major cornerstone of marketing for this company, before the PS4 and Xbox One is gone. And at this point, the only way for the system to really endear itself to a larger audience, and that's the key to success. The Wii made a ton of cash when it appealed itself to a broader audience. When it
Hmm.
didn't, it tanked. That's the thing. For the Wii U to appeal itself to a broader audience, it now has to be all about price point because there's really the gamepad is nothing that's shown itself to be attractive to a broader audience. So why not just give the choice to fans, give the choice to potential customers. You can have it with or you can have it without, and just sharply cut the price and go from there. Because the Wii U still can be a decent system as long as you have great games coming to it.
Yeah, it's true. You're dead right. I mean, at one time, was the gamepad fascinating to me and was it worth it? Yeah, of course, because hey, I could play on my gamepad while, my wife watched. Okay, but now I can play a game on my Xbox One and snap the TV on the side or vice versa.
And there's other things. You need to prove the online system from the online functionality needs to prove to a comparable level to the PS4 and Xbox One.
And that's
Uh,
something I think Nintendo's always been lacking.
and you and I talked about, yes, you take Mario Kart and put it on YouTube, provided you sell your soul to Nintendo first. But there is no real game sharing to the level that Xbox One and PS4 now have, which a lot of gamers are really getting into, like us. Um, and that's disappointing. So they're behind the curve on that. And it just seems to me that the only way they can actually still market the Wii U is by price point. And to do that, you need to get under the $200 range, and you need to get under there fast.
Yeah.
Um, I know Super Pouring still has a lot of strong comments and good thoughts regarding the Wii U, and I really appreciate his feedback to us earlier today regarding it, and also Steph Tafu as well, and and I appreciate all the time that they took, in answering, our requests, as far as that's concerned regarding the E3 conferences, and also what Aaron, aka OSU Water Polo, said as far as the E3 conference as well, with their thoughts, Nintendo. But it just comes right down to it. It's not the appealing factor for people that are not hardcore Nintendo fans for the Wii U, and it just seems like it's a shame because I think it's a decent system. I think it still has hope. I think it still has life left in it, but I just don't think it gets promoted in the best of fashions, and that's what I find truly disappointing.
That's true. I mean, and there's little things, just little tweaks that could garner so much.
I couldn't agree with you more on that one. We're going to wrap this up in a neat little bow here. Your final thoughts on the last 36 hours?
Definitely what I expected to see, definitely what I wanted to see, and can't wait to get my hands on and see more.
For me, I still think there was, like I said, everybody seemed to play it safe. There was a lot of stuff that was rumored to be coming out and being debuted or being shown that weren't, which was kind of disappointing to me. I know for myself, the Last Guardian and all that hoopla that went down with is it canceled, is it not canceled, that we were reporting on.
Hmm.
I was ashamed that we didn't get to see that fulfilled. Left 4 Dead 3, Half-Life 3, and there was a few others as well, games as well that were promised. Fallout 4, that were not promised, I should say, but you know could have fulfilled the promise for a lot of gamers. Fallout 4, excuse me, that might have whetted the appetites of a lot of fans and made it an E3 to remember. When all is said and done, this is going to be the conference is just going to be a lot of games got put out there and a lot of interesting things we're seeing, but nothing to the level of definitely last year's tit for tat was probably the best E3 I can remember, and I've been going to them or viewing them since 2001. So obviously there was nothing to that level, but then there were no new systems this time around, so you have to take it as is. But I feel all of them did play it safe to some level, and I think they were just trying to avoid the major gaffes that Microsoft endured last year. And going forward, I think there's still a lot of great games out there that hold hope. But I think 2015 is definitely shaping up to be a much better year than this one as far as video gaming is concerned. When all is said and done, um, you're could that be the case, or do you like a lot of the games that are going to come out this year?
No, that sums it up. A lot of the games I, have been waiting on or hoping for are pretty much seeming to be falling into that, spring, summer of 2015, and that's where it's going to be.
Well, and like I said, it's just overall it's like a good conference. Our guys are still down there. They're meeting with all the different publishers and developers. They're probably getting drunk with them at night, or drunk with themselves. If you see three guys down there in Los Angeles that look like they're out of place, um, wearing E3 badges, they could be from Game Source. So I do apologize for that. Los Angeles, just want to let everybody know that. But hopefully Chris, Corey, and Angry Nick can give us some podcasts. They've been sending in a few pictures to us, posting them on our Facebook site, Game Source. If you get a shout out, please like us if you can. Our Twitter account at Game Source. I do want to make mention that between Jamie and myself, we posted over 250 different articles yesterday alone in less than a 24-hour span. So kudos to you, sir, and I appreciate all your help on that.
You as well.
Being the number one aggregate news feed in the entire world for the video game industry, it sure helps, and I do appreciate that. Um, so I guess for me, like I said, we're going to have I'm going to be showing up, putting out there, an article on my my yeselvislives.html. That's yourgamesource.com/yeselvislives.html blog of infamy. I'm going to be hopefully finalizing my E3 impressions here in the next couple days. I know Jamie said he's got a review coming up, and I'm sure a lot more coming up for his page, which is the Degenerate08 page, yourgamesource.com/degenerate08.html. And then, like I said, we've always got good stuff coming down the pike. A lot of streaming, hopefully some more podcasts we can put down there. If you missed our annual On the Road to E3 podcast, it's great. You just got to listen to it. And then also our E3 preview podcast that Nick and I did. Wait till want to take a listen to that as well, or view it on YouTube. On that one, you can view on YouTube or Twitch. Um, how off were we? I don't even want to know how off I was, because I probably was off. Usually, I'm pretty darn good at predicting these things. Unfortunately, I had some hopes that didn't come true, but such as it is. I got to see Star Wars Battlefront I mentioned Battlefield Hardline. Battlefield Hardline looked pretty good. It's taking a lot from Payday. I could see the influence there. But that game looked pretty good, and obviously it's a step in the right direction for the Battlefield franchise, as long as the game runs in multiplayer. Hint, hint. But I digress on that. Once again, our home site is www.yourgamesource.com. Number one for everything in video games. Check us out there, or like us on Facebook, GameSource. Follow us on Twitter at GameSource. Our YouTube page is yourgamesource.com. The entire thing. Game_source here on Twitch. We've got an Instagram, we've got a Vine, we've got a Reddit, we've got a Tumblr.
We've got an Angry Nick.
We got Angry Nick. I do want to take this time to congratulate Seventh Valkyrie and Joshua, King Joshua, for graduating. I believe they just had their graduations, and from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. So my compliments
That's right.
Sam
was rocking the Batman shirt.
Yes, for her graduation. I want to send a special shout out to them and congratulate them on their hard work. That their hard work's paid off, and I wish them all success. Hopefully both of them can be part of GameSource in the future. I'll leave that up to them, because we at GameSource here with our staff, we're always really cool with our staff. And if you want to join our staff, just send us a line, info@yourgamesource.com. Well, I think I've babbled enough about E3. How about you?
Yeah, I'd say enough, but who knows?
This is true.
Written word, there always could be more.
Yes, yes, and we'll hopefully post that more here very shortly. So for me, Gerald, aka Yes Elvis Lives, it's been another beautiful evening in paradise. And
And for me, since from day one, Degenerate08 got stuck with no kind of catchphrase except for insert here, so
well, that's the name
right
of your
now,
column.
that's correct.
It's the insert here column.
I never got my catchphrase.
Um,
It's
that
okay though.
Tweet him at GameSource, and you could and we'll
Just
use
give me
it.
one.
We use
I'll
it.
use whatever you throw at me.
There you go. And the next time you're on our podcast, we'll be able to let everyone know that that is hopefully. So again, it's Yes Elvis Lives and Degenerate 8. We thank you for listening, watching, viewing, however you're taking in this podcast. We truly appreciate it. We hope you enjoy the rest of E3. And thanks for listening and watching. And keep checking us out on GameSource.
Do what the man says.
Thanks again. Have a great one, everyone.